So I posted something in my secret group, and you should all join my secret group. It has a lot of extra content about a woman saying how she wanted her boyfriend to plan the date, and it's not sexy, it's not fun if he doesn't plan the whole thing. It's a little riff on that, right? And that's true for most women who do not struggle with either anxiety or eating issues. So a guy in the group was like, whenever I try to plan a restaurant, my wife always wants a different restaurant. Well, okay, maybe she could just be a B word, right? And she could just want everything her way. I talk about this all the time. I call it the cult of boundaries and preferences. So that's option one, right? Is that she just really, it's a her way or the highway kind of gal, and she ought to work on that in therapy, etc. But there's two other issues that guys don't usually see. I'll start with the one that they more frequently do acknowledge, which is anxiety. So anxiety makes you very rigid, and if you cannot, I see this in men and women have higher rates of anxiety, but also in anxious men, you're rigid, you do not want the routine to differ. If you were thinking of a certain restaurant, sitting a certain place, looking at a certain way, there's a certain level of noise, a certain level of stimulation, the options of what to eat. Picky eating goes along with anxiety, right? And sensory issues. Then anxiety can be linked to this rigidity about restaurant choice and food consumption. Now, there's a third issue, which guys frequently do not understand at all, and they don't want to be a jerk about it. They just don't know, and the woman doesn't really share it. It's that she has an eating disorder, or subclinical levels of an eating disorder. Good book to read about this is Almost Anorexic, talks about subclinical levels of eating issues, right? And when a woman struggles with eating issues, and many women do, then she gets fixated on certain healthy foods or good foods or okay foods or certain ways that she can modify a specific dish at a specific restaurant in order to make it lower calorie or in order to make it acceptable. There's something called orthorexia, where people are just obsessed with eating healthy. That's the fixation, healthy in their mind, right? Whatever that is. So she doesn't want to say this because it sounds kind of weird to say it out loud, but frequently with women, when you just ask, is there something about eating that's going on? Like, is it about the specific food that you're scared of specific foods? Maybe she looked up the calorie count ahead of time at one restaurant, or she used a calorie counter. This is stuff that women do that most guys are completely unaware of. So that's another way to understand and empathize with your wife's seeming B-word behavior about being so picky about where she eats, and nothing you do is good enough usually has nothing to do with you at all, right? And so what we're saying is, yeah, either she's picky, that doesn't have to do with you, that's her innately, right? Or she's really anxious and rigid, or she has an eating disorder or subclinical levels of an eating disorder. And you could see this if she's really very, very picky about what she eats in the home, and certain foods are good and certain foods are bad, and she feels guilty if she eats certain things and not if she eats other things, etc., etc., etc. And knowing this can promote a lot of empathy and open discussion in the partner.